All right, today we're talking about a really powerful tool for resilience, and it comes from the ancient Hermetic text, the Kybalion. It's called the principle of rhythm. And you know what? It does a fantastic job of explaining life's inevitable ups and downs. So the real question is, how can we actually use this ancient wisdom today in our modern lives? Let's get into it. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You start something new, a project, a habit, a workout routine, and the energy is just incredible. You feel absolutely unstoppable. But then, a few days or maybe a few weeks later, you just hit a wall. All that enthusiasm is gone. It suddenly feels like a chore, and that little voice in your head starts whispering, just quit, this isn't for you.
But what if that dip isn't a sign that you failed? What if it's not the end at all, but just a totally predictable part of a natural cycle? If you stick with me here, you're going to understand this universal law, you'll see how it's showing up in your own life, and you'll learn a really practical way to manage it.
So to really understand this dip, we have to look at an ancient concept that explains this exact thing, the Hermetic principle of rhythm. The core idea here is that everything in the universe, and I mean everything, from galaxies all the way down to our own moods, is in this constant, measured motion. Just picture a giant pendulum swinging back and forth. There's a flow out and a flow back in, a rise and then a fall, in absolutely everything. Nothing ever just stays completely still. You know, the easiest way to get this is to think about ocean tides. Nobody gets mad at the ocean when the tide goes out, right? We all get that it's a natural, predictable cycle. It flows out, but we know for a fact it's going to flow back in. Well, the principle of rhythm says that our own lives are working under this very same law of ebb and flow. And look, this isn't some abstract, far-out cosmic idea. It's happening in our daily lives all the time, in everything from our creative projects to our relationships. A period of huge enthusiasm is naturally followed by a dip. A big burst of courage is often followed by a swing back toward fear. That's just the universal rhythm at play. So this brings us to a really key idea, the law of compensation. Basically, it says that how intense the swing is in one direction determines how intense the swing will be on the way back. So a period of really intense, almost manic joy will often be balanced out by a period of equally intense sadness. It's like a universal balancing act. And here's the problem. If we don't understand this principle, we kind of become victims of it. We get carried along by these swings, and our moods and actions end up being dictated by forces we don't even see. We become, as the text puts it, like pawns on a chessboard, just moved around by our environment and our emotional tides without any real say in the matter. But here's the good news, we don't have to be pawns. The Kybalion offers a really powerful method for managing this rhythm, an art it calls neutralization. This is how you learn to rise above that swing. So what does this actually look like? Well, on one hand, you have the default state, right? Reacting emotionally, getting tossed around by mood swings, and quitting the second you hit a low. But on the other side is the goal, consciously observing the rhythm, holding on to your mental poise, and patiently waiting out the dip. This, right here, is the path to self-mastery. And here is the most crucial point. Understanding rhythm is not an excuse for doing nothing or for fatalism. No, it's the exact opposite. It's about recognizing that while the pendulum of your mood and circumstances will always swing, your will is a higher force. You can choose to rise to a higher plane of consciousness and just let that swing happen on a lower level without letting it drag you down. Okay, let's make this even more real. Let's look at how this rhythm plays out in 3 really common areas of life. Think about a new job. Those first few months are super exciting. That's the high swing. Then, the challenges and the routines start to set in, and that's the low swing. The same thing is true for relationships. You'll have these periods of intense closeness and then periods of distance. It's a natural ebb and flow. And for habits? Oh yeah, motivation is always through the roof at the start, but it will inevitably dip. That's a guarantee. The whole key is to not panic when you're in that low swing. When you're in a tough phase at work or maybe a distant phase in a relationship, understanding rhythm helps you see it for what it is, just a temporary season, not a permanent reality. The tide will turn. It always does. So how do we actually do this? How do we put this whole art of neutralization thing into practice? Well, here is a simple 3-step plan you can start using today. First, just observe. That's it. Start noticing the natural cycles in your energy and your moods without judging them. Just see them. Next, anchor your will. This is what the Hermeticists called polarization. You consciously decide on the mental state you want to maintain. Calm, focused, positive, whatever it is. And finally, you rise above. You stand firm in that state you chose, and you allow the negative swing, the bad mood, to just pass beneath you, on a lower plane, without letting it pull you down with it. So the whole point is this. It's a practice of active observation and intentional firmness. You don't stop the pendulum from swinging, you can't, but you can stop yourself from being swung around with it. Okay, let's bring this all together. The goal isn't to flatten the waves of life, because that's impossible. The goal is to learn how to surf them. Think about it. A wise person doesn't stand on the shore and yell at the tide to stop. They get a surfboard. They learn the rhythm of the ocean, they respect its power, and they use that energy to move forward. This is exactly how we can use the principle of rhythm. We work with it, not against it. And this is the ultimate takeaway. By understanding this natural law, you shift from being a pawn, moved by forces outside your control, to being a player in the game. You start to use the law to your advantage, keeping your balance and your poise no matter which way that pendulum swings. Understanding rhythm, it gives you stability, and that is a seriously powerful foundation to have. In our next explainer, we're going to build on that by exploring the principle of cause and effect, which is all about giving you agency. Make sure to watch that, and hey, check out the full Hermetic Principles playlist on the channel. Thanks for watching.